Welcome to a new episode of Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work to get more content out, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Bringing Out the New You to Play in the New World, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and is also in the description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us come together who are creating shifts in themselves, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. This is the series that utilizes your own capacities, your own knowing to stimulate it so that you become much more aware of your awesomeness, your essence, your creator ability, and how you are partaking in all of these beautiful transformations that are taking place at this time, and why you're even here on the planet at this time, why you're even drawn to all of the things that you are being drawn to, regardless of all the things that you're letting go at this point in time that no longer serves you or reflects an old version of yourself. So welcome again. We're in episode 42, and the question, or not even the question, the thing that kept coming up is that, we haven't done a question answer type of event for a little while. So a few people wanted to address some of their inquiries, some of their questions and so forth. So this is why we've put this together today to give you the opportunity to answer some questions. Now, the first thing I wanted to cover for you, this coming Sunday, we have a workshop coming up. And it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's a full day workshop. We'll go to about 5:30, 6 o'clock. It is very much focused on, matter of fact, I'm just going to bring that up. I should have arranged that with Kimberly there, but I did not. So here we are. I'm going to have to do it on the screen. Maneuvering with neutrality and alignment during the next wave of unfoldments. Of course, we have some really powerful unfoldments that are continuously going, but we're moving even more forward than before, in the sense that even what we've experienced up to this point in time is actually going to another level. So is it need to be in one way or another fearful, or that in some way that it needs to be something that is not supportive? No, we don't. In fact, it is quite supportive. But we decided to put this workshop together, or guided to do this workshop at this point in time, to give you the tools to basically use these very powerful components of ourselves, which is neutrality and also being in alignment. And a lot of people want to be in alignment, want to no longer struggle with life, no longer want to continue putting a lot of effort in allowing life to be, because that is an old modality. It's a program. It's never been our natural state. So we're going to look at all of that. We're going to do exercises together, processes together, and so forth, to kind of bring you to that level where you are using the potentiality or the power within the neutrality and being alignment, so that you flow with more ease. And this is something that people love to do, because our natural state is to flow with ease, not to struggle with life. So just wanted to point that out. And for anyone that hasn't, We're going to be looking at quite a few different areas. I'm not going to go through it, but all that information is on the write-up. If you click below, there's the link that will take you to the page for it. And also, Kimberly may put that up along the way. Not right now, because we're just getting started. We're going to have some fun. So let me just bring back the screen. There's probably an easy way to do this, but at this point in time, I'm no master at it yet. But anyways, I get to play with my new toy, I guess, if you want to call it that, but it's an efficiency tool. All right, so before we go to the questions, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that things are stepping up. We're coming to the middle. We're basically at the middle of the month of September. And within a few days, we're going to have a few other things that are going to unfold. And I've mentioned before the opportunity provided to us to kind of take a step back or go into some form of intensity is an option. It's not required, even though it is going to be presented even much more powerfully along the way, especially the next little while. So for us to be in that observer state and really be grounded to ourselves. And what do I mean by grounded to yourself? Connecting with yourself, connecting with your heart, connecting with your essence, so that no matter what is playing out around you, it does not stir you in any way. You can now see it for what it really is. It's a beautiful dance, a beautiful movie. It's a video game that you're participating in, but the video game is of your own design. You don't have to go in there and struggle with it or anything of that nature. You get to play with it with ease, and that's the beauty of it. So this is the key thing, is that we want to understand that a lot of things are going to be offered, but it's an offering. It's for us on a collective scale to accept it, but also individually and within the clusters of our communities, family dynamics and so forth. Again, we're going to honor our families, our playmates, or whoever we have chosen to be partaking on this journey at this moment, to allow them to go through whatever. We're not there to fix them, adjust them, or do anything of that nature, but at the same time to be yourself, to share with love, to be whatever, but never interrupting with whatever they require, unless they're open. And then even if they're open, you're not interfering, you're not going in and doing anything. You're just basically sharing and allowing them to get their own grounding, their own navigational skills, because most people don't believe that they're actually navigating their life, their journey, all the things that are playing out. They feel that there's something else navigating, that they have no essence or power to, or control to, or are in the driver's seats. And I know I've talked about this quite extensively over the last several episodes, but at the same time, we are in the driver's seat. And that's a realization that can be quite surprising for a lot of people, because a lot of people have felt that the outside world dictates their life. Whatever they've learned dictates their lives. Their programs dictate their lives. Everything has been dictating their life. But now, more of us, as becoming more aware, we're actually seeing that we were always in the driver's seat. We were just kind of following the leader of where everybody else was going. But we always had the steering wheel. We always had the controls to be able to veer off or to create a new path or anything of that nature. And that's the thing that we are coming to, that further realization now that was not so easily realized before. Now, why was it not realized before? Because of the fact that we got involved in what we had chosen as a part of an experience, going into the inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D, and give ourselves the opportunity to kind of experience that part. But now we're bringing that back. The other thing is, we decided to accept the game of polarity, accepted the fact of separation, the fact of disconnect from ourselves. And those were just experiences, but all of that is coming back together right now. So what I'm saying at this point in time, be more aware and observant of whatever's playing out as the dance that it is, and see it as the dance, see it as the movie, see it as the video game, and you connecting with yourself and being grounded to your own self. That even supersedes the grounding of what Gaia provides, even though Gaia provides us tremendous amount of grounding. But when you're grounding to yourself, to your soul, to your very essence, your sourceness, it actually goes even further, because now you're grounding to that knowing that goes beyond the human experience on so many levels. So that makes it very much more powerful. And by doing that, you're also tapping into your experiences that you've had in other lives, on other planets, and other dimensions, and other levels of consciousness in the galaxy, in the universes, and so forth, that you've decided to play with. And at the same time, you can tap a certain portion of sourceness, but all guided to the degree that's going to serve you each step of the way. So that's the beauty of all of this that's taking place right now. So one of the questions that came up, and I just started to cover that, that we had coming in a couple of episodes ago, was the fact of there was a sense of confusion, a confusion of when we say or share or don't share, what should I do or shouldn't do in regards to allowing other people to know what the game is about. Now, the clarity I wanted to provide is, if you feel compelled, you feel driven, you feel guided, you feel that sense of sharing, share, absolutely share. Make it available to as many people as possible. But do not take on the role that I need to fix anything. You're sharing consciousness. I'm not here to fix you. I am here to share, to trigger within yourself your own knowing. And that's what you do to others. You trigger that knowing. Now, you may share somebody else's videos, you may share other people's information or whatever it is. But again, it's all part of you. The only reason you're sharing it because it resonates with you. So you're sharing a part of you, your resonance, to them. And that's how the game is played. So it's not about going in, because a lot of times people get attached to their whole idea that I need to save my family, I need to make changes because they're my siblings, or they're my children, they're my immediate family, my extended family, my friends, my co-workers, or whatever. There's so many, or communities and whatever else. So at this point in time is, yes, share, but also observe who's open to listen. It's not like you dumping everything on anybody and everybody. And one of the things I've talked about, or several times now in different episodes, is the fact of just presenting, hey, this is what I'm starting to realize. This is what I started to notice, instead of, oh, you're right, you're wrong, this is right, and this is wrong, and so forth, and you should do this, or that. You don't use that. That is your ego getting involved. And in fact, you just say, hey, listen, you don't want to push anybody into anything, but at the same time, you're sharing your observation. You're sharing, hey, listen, I've noticed this, this resonates with me. And it's very interesting, because I started to apply some of this, and I started to experience changes within myself, or my observations changed, or something of that nature. Share it from that viewpoint, share it from that energy, because now you're sharing with love. But a lot of times people confuse love with savior or fixing people. That's not love. That's an egotistic version of what love is. In fact, true love is an honoring, a respect for others to have their journey. But when you're sharing with love, you create freedom, no expectations for anybody or conditions for anybody. This is the thing. True love has no expectations and no conditions. It's open, it's fluid, it's expansive, and you're just sharing. You share with love. And again, even when there's a resistance to whatever you share, you allow them to do whatever they choose to do, because that way they're making the choice. You're not pushing them out of the driver's seat. You're allowing them to realize that they're in the driver's seat, and they can choose if they want to steer one direction or another, or shift any part of their life. So I wanted to make that very clear, that if you feel like sharing, share, please share. No expectations, no conditions, but share it in a sense where you're not polarizing anything. Well, that's all wrong. You say, well, yeah, this is what the mainstream, or this is what everybody's been saying, and I've noticed a lot of people, and I've put focus on this, but I've also noticed something different. I started to realize that there's some other things that are playing out outside of what I've believed too. And I'm just sharing it. That's it. And use those terminology. I'm not saying exact words, but I'm saying in those terminologies, because when you are presenting, for example, when you're wanting to share something with somebody, a lot of times you're sharing your own experience. You're sharing your own observation. You're sharing your experiences of whatever may have played out in your life or so forth. Like some people are really good at creating or making things or anything of that nature, or even cooking or whatever it is. And they're sharing. They're sharing with their family. They're sharing with their friends. Hey, listen, you know, I mixed this ingredient, that ingredient, I did this. I brought this piece of wood and I did all these things to it, and this is what I have. So it's the same thing with what I'm talking about, this higher awareness. Share your experience, share your observations, share your new learnings, but not shoving it down anybody's throat. You just show, hey, listen, this is what I've discovered. This is what I've looked at. And I started to play with this. And these are some of the results I've been having. These are some of the observation I've been having. These are some of the things I've been experiencing and feeling within myself where, you know, I had fear, I had this, I had that. Now I feel more calmer. I feel much more, calm in the sense of directing my life, and I also don't put so much pressure in going one direction or the other. All of these things are beautifully unfolding and playing out in such a powerful way, and that's how you share it. So I just wanted to make that clear so that we can, you know, as you go along, because it can create some confusions, absolutely, you know. But the key here to understand, the most important part is for you to start living it. You start feeling it. You start to experience it first and foremost. You know, I know we're not going to be all perfect. We're not going to turn around and say, okay, I got it all figured out. Now I can go out in teaching mode. I mean, you know, even the stuff I'm sharing, I work with it myself too. I'm still work in progress, if you want to call it that. Which all of us are, but in essence what we're doing is really refining and expanding and experiencing and observing and applying and adjusting every part of our experience as we go along, and that's what we're doing. So Kimberly, let's go start play with some questions. I'm going to make...
So we'll start right off from the chat, because we don't really have any with us, because I went through all the questions that we had, and we have covered quite a lot of information over the last several months.
Yes.
So we're kind of starting new again.
Okay.
So we're just going to take them from the chat.
Okay.
I have one kind of thing I would like you to talk about too a bit.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the chat though.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm just going to go in order that I receive them. If we don't get to them all again, we'll start another list. So this is from Valerie. What is the new 5D world? What will it look like? Is it in another dimension, and how will we be there? I know we've talked about this before, so you decide how much, you know.
Okay, well, you know, the 5D that we're talking about, fifth dimensional, it's about consciousness. It's applying fifth dimensional consciousness versus, you know, because, you know, like I said, we have been functioning in what we call the 2D. Then we are also in the in the inverted 3D. Then we started going into the organic part, organic 3D and 5D. Okay? So these are the different stages. Now we have also 4D, which we're not really utilizing. There's some stuff coming through there, but it's not a point that we're going to utilize at this point. So what's the difference? What we've done is all of this functioned in the inverted matrix. Okay? So in the inverted matrix, this is what we experience. We started off organic 3D 15,000 years ago, and then 10,000 years ago we shifted into that. So what is 5D? 5D, or organic 3D, is a state of consciousness, a sense of awareness. So the difference between organic 3D and organic 5D is more source awareness applied into our experience. Is it outside of planet Earth? No, it's here. 5D exists on many, many realms. Okay? 5 to 12 and beyond, of course. Each stage of it, what it does is actually increases your sourceness. But the higher the dimension, the less focus there is to the physical existence as your own existence, meaning that we feel that the body is the only thing that exists, and there's just an indication. Now, here, we're basically, the main focus was physicality. Not only physicality, but also in the sense that we spent a lot of time in fight or flight, survival, and everything, playing the game upside down, in reverse, basically. Everything was inverted. But also, as we were going through all of this 2D inverted 3D part of it, we're basically the realization of your source essence as the creator, the experiencer, the infinite and immortal aspect of yourself was not being applied. And of course, we were a lot in polarity, separation, and survival, basically. So when we went into the organic 3D, which is basically, we started this year, and 5D, well, it was mid last year, but we started to go into that. So these are two interlined planets within one. So basically both exist on this playground we call Earth. Now, planet Earth is tuned and tooled to support bands of frequencies that will support third dimensional consciousness all the way to 12th dimensional consciousness. It was only up to 9 before, but it's been upgraded to 12. Now, the difference is that we're accessing different consciousness. That means the way we see things, feel things, what we apply as part of our designed experience or reality gets upgraded so that there is less focus in what existence of physicality, survival, and all of that stuff becomes out of the equation as we go along. So we have both playing out right now. Now, the frequencies that are being supported are still supporting 2D and inverted 3D temporarily, but it's only allowance to it, but it's really stored within ourselves. It's not in a sense where we're saying it is part of our experience as a way of life. So what we're looking at here right now is that fifth dimensional consciousness is on planet Earth. And we, going through the upgrades at this point in time, is supplying us or providing us the opportunity to bring more of that consciousness in. Now, Gaia, the planet itself, has both. So in essence, what it's doing is that we can see the world that we're most focused. Now, these are your primaries, okay? So that means if you have chosen as a soul, because of whatever choice, to be still playing in organic 3D for the next several years, because that's been offered until 2035, and then also to purge all of this until 2022 or 23 actually, because there's a 2021, 22, so until the beginning of 2023. So all of this has to be gone by that. So what does that mean? That level of consciousness, that level of vibration and frequency. The organic 3D, you have till 2035 to complete. That means you can leave at any time. Now, as this is your base, so if you chose this as your base, or this as your base, you still have the opportunity to move between one and the other. How does that work? Well, depending on how you put your focus on and what you're accessing within yourself, you can now shift from one world to the other, even though both worlds are two layers. It's like your TV set or radio, you have multiple channels. So you have the two channels, and within the two channels. So in fact, you may be watching one thing at one point and then you want to watch something else. So if you chose this as your baseline and say, okay, for the next several years, whatever that is, my prominent space is creating and experiencing reality in the third dimensional consciousness. The third dimensional consciousness has a little bit more focus on the physical experience. It's much more in tune with the physicality in the sense as a reference point of its essence or its reality. That means it puts more attention how it feels to be in the body, and it knows its source, it knows that its essence, but at the same time would prefer to spend a little bit more attention and energy in the physical. Now that's a beautiful experience anyways, because in most cases, many that are here in souls have never had that experience, or if they had it, it was always in the inverted matrix component, which was the inverted 3D and 2D part of it. So now it says, well, I would like to see it in its organic design, which was the original design anyways, with its upgrade. So that would be your base. But every time that you're shifting a certain consciousness or something gets activated, you go into a state, then you can also visit the fifth dimensional consciousness. Well, what happens in fifth dimensional consciousness? There's more focus on your essence as sourceness while having a human experience. So here, basically in organic 3D, it says, I'm a physical being having a human experience. In 5D, you're saying, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. It's the other way around. So basically, I'm a physical having a human, a spiritual experience, and in 5D is I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So it's just a little bit of shift. Now, nothing wrong with either one, and both of them is just the amount of focus and how much of it is utilized as a reference point of its own guidance system and how it plays. Now, to understand that, this dimensional consciousness, as I was saying right at the beginning, exists on all different planes. For example, say we're in fifth dimensional consciousness, with Gaia is, okay? So if you're looking at it and you're on another planet, fifth dimensional consciousness exists there. It's the same consciousness, but a different experience. Why is it different? The difference is what the planet has to offer that they're on, what physicality they're in, and what frequency that their physicality operates in. For example, you can be on a Palladian planet, you're going to be in a different physicality. You have a different operating system. You see things differently. You feel things differently. You may not have any emotions. You may not have a lot of things that you have in a human physicality, but you're utilizing fifth dimensional consciousness. So again, it always comes back to how much of sourceness do you plug in to your experience, but it will vary on whatever playground you're on. So fifth dimensional consciousness exists on many, many different playgrounds. It's not a playground saying, okay, it's just planet Earth, or I have to go into another dimension, or I'm leaving planet Earth. No, you're experiencing it here. So what you're bringing in. So what's happening? Right now, we're purging out all of this 2D inverted 3D stuff and the inverted matrix, which is basically the software that does that is the ego that still supports it. So we're purging all of this, and the downloads, all the stuff that we're receiving is coming in to support us in third dimension, organic third dimensional consciousness and fifth dimensional consciousness. So what's happening? While you're purging this, you're receiving uploads. You're receiving, well, what they call downloads, sorry. And you're downloading new codes, new operating systems. So what you're doing is you're having upgrades so that you may be able to function more in the organic 3D and organic 5D. Why? Okay, why do we need all of that? Well, first of all, it's upgraded because of the fact that the whole galaxy and the universe has been upgrading. So of course, it's like any operating system on a computer, operating system on your phone or pad or whatever, anything that operates on a software program, you know, you're going to get upgrades because things are changing, technology is advancing and so forth. So I don't want to relate this too much as technology, but at the same time, we're having those upgrades. But most of us at this point, even though you came from a higher dimensional consciousness, now I'm not saying everybody, but many have come to from a higher dimensional consciousness on another playground or working with others at certain points, have come on the planet in this particular physicality. And this particular physicality was heavily ingrained in all of this, the 2D and 3D, or inverted 3D and 2D, and under the inverted matrix. So what happens is the original program kind of got modified and tuned down, in many cases turned off. So by doing so, in that turning off that's occurred, the integral component of that software kind of got a little washed out. So what's happened? We've been getting a lot of stimulation energetically. We've been having these downloads and codes to reprogram us in a sense so that we can utilize the organic 3D and organic 5D in its true design rather than the kind of skewed version while coming into it. It's like this. You put into a playground and here you are, you take on a physicality, you take on a human entity, you're on a planet, and everything up to just recently has reflected this world. You become ingrained, you become patternized within it, you become conditioned as responses and so forth in this world. So these worlds, these ways of life, seem foreign. And this is why we're going through these upgrades, so that this doesn't become foreign, this becomes foreign. Even though you entered with this becomes natural, and the rest of it, you're kind of purging. And this is what's happening. The other thing that we've been doing, and we've talked about it, other people have talked about it, is that all these energies that are coming in very powerfully are assisting us to purge and so forth. So hopefully that makes sense for you. It exists on this playground, and it exists on many, many, many playgrounds. Now, some of you guys, as souls, will go and experience fifth dimensional consciousness on other planes. Temporarily, say in your sleep state or anything of that nature, but the sleep state has a lot of different things that are available through meditation and so forth. But at the same time, this is the playground. This is where you're at, and this is what you're choosing to play with.
I just wanted to add too, is it actually, it's not really a physical location, it's within us, correct?
Yeah, so it's consciousness.
It's a
it's
consciousness
an upgraded
that's
operating
within us that we can access. So we're just accessing that consciousness. So we create the 5D world.
Yes, yes.
We're the ones that are creating it, and it's within us. And the way to get there, because that was the other question, how will we be there, is as we release the programs and release and get clarity, we automatically go. It's like we keep talking like we're going somewhere else, but we're just accessing a higher level of who we are, and we're calling it 5D.
Yes, yes. The thing I want to make very clear is that we're constantly getting downloads. We're constantly being upgraded. We're constantly being stimulated. However, that does not mean that we can turn any of it on. It's on, but we can't utilize it because all the other programs are still running. And the other programs are running at a very low frequency, which again was all the inverted 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix component about it. This is why, like you said, Kimberly, you're going through the purging, because the more you purge of that old, the newer stuff can now become more in the driver's seat or more as the influential component of how you are creating your reality. Now, of course, you're still playing with fear, you're still playing with survival, struggle, and so forth, which is all under here, this banner. It's going to impede. So a lot of the stuff that you have active within yourself can't really be utilized. Like you can say, well, I got a piece of coal, and you keep looking at the coal, but meanwhile next to the coal you have this diamond, but the diamond you're ignoring it because of the fact that you're still putting a lot of focus on the coal. And this is the thing, is we're putting a lot of focus on that. Now, one of the things that becomes an obstacle is a lot of times we want to move forward, but then we get all wrapped up in the fact of what everybody else is doing. So it's really, really important to be yourself, to be that connecting with yourself, regardless where anybody is. And it doesn't matter if it's your children, if it's your significant other, if it's your immediate different levels of family, we're talking about your communities or anything of that nature. You allow them to have their experience. You be you, because the more you are you, the more you're, first of all, getting rid of all this stuff, but at the same time, you're actually starting to utilize more of your organic 3D and organic 5D, depending on where you're at, and allowing yourself to carry and move into that vibration. So just to give you an indication, this is your 2D and inverted 3D. You have organic 3D, and then you have organic 5D. Hopefully all the clicking here doesn't get too distracting. So, and this involved the inverted matrix. Now, the thing is, we have to understand, we still have a matrix. We're not getting out of a matrix. All we're doing is we've dropped the inverted matrix, the matrix that was in reverse. Now, what is a matrix? A matrix is an operating system that creates consistency on the playground. It's actually planet Earth's operating system in a sense. I'm not talking about Gaia as the consciousness, because Gaia is a consciousness. I'm talking about the main operating system. So your computers may have Apple operating system, or may have Windows operating system, a Unix, or whatever other there is, just to give you an idea. So the inverted matrix is what's unplugged, and the support for this is unplugged, and including the moon, that was the transmitter for it. That's all gone. But at the same time, when we're going in here, we're going into organic 3D with the organic matrix, which is the original upgraded version of our operating system, because a matrix is required. Every planet has a matrix. Without the matrix, you cannot experience a collective experience. You cannot see each other or see the same thing, even though it may be interpreted different and we may see layers of it, but the foundation is required. So it's not like we're getting out of the matrix, we're getting out of the inverted matrix, which is what we've done. Now, the only inverted matrix resemblance is still in the operating system of this that we still have within ourselves. And the ego was the original software that was plugged in when the inverted matrix was come in. All of this was hand in hand working together. So the moon was just a transmitter, and it was transmitting a certain frequency that supported this, did not support any of this. So what happens is, the more you purge to that, more you are focusing or becoming more organic 3D. So everything upgrades in that respect. And then as you continue to experience this part, and you create obsolescence of those experiences, or you're upgrading the experience, you're going into organic 5D. Now, the thing is, you can jump around, and this is what we're doing. You get activated by an old program, and you're back into here. Now, the matrix doesn't exist, but the 2D inverted 3D with a simulation of the matrix, which is the ego. Okay? That software system. So you may have a trigger, somebody pushes your buttons, whatever it is, which is absolutely amazing because it's part of the process. You will dip down here. Your vibration will lower. There will be more fear, more struggle, more resentment, more whatever. You're going to go in there. You're going to have that experience. You're going to realize it's there. You may choose at that point in time, I'm done with this experience. And as soon as you shift it, you can now shift back into organic 3D, organic 5D. Now, you may linger at organic 3D because you want to get a little bit more familiar with the physical aspect of it before you're going into 5D. 5D still has a physical aspect, but a little less attention to all the little cues of what it represents in the physical form. And of course, you can go higher than that as you go along. So these are just bands of frequencies that you go through. So let me just put that here. So as you're going through it, you're just moving. You're just moving from one to the other. Those are bands that you're doing. In each one of these are different levels of consciousness. For example, you get triggered. What happens to your consciousness? Your source awareness, it drops. Well, did it drop in a sense? No, your focus point changes. So you start now reflecting on the story, program, belief systems, labels, and definitions that have been applied. So you go into that because as long as you remember your sourceness, to dwell here, to go into this, it's not something you can do very easily. It's not going to be supportive in any way, shape, or form. You're going, it's like, oh, wow, I'm here. I'm out of here. See you later. And you're back up here. So that's what we're looking at. So those are the ways that it works. Did you want to add something? Because I know you have a burning thing that you want to say.
No, I don't actually have anything to add to. I was more around the internalness of it all, that we are accessing another aspect of ourselves. And So, anyways, and I'm sure we'll cover it again another day too,
Yep.
some more, and because it's always good for reminders.
Well, yes. I mean, there's nothing new here that I'm
Yeah.
sharing at this point in time. However, some of it we heard a little while ago, and just to trigger and presenting in a different way will help for people. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to ask another question. This one is from Stephanie. I have a question. Okay. During this time, there has been a lot of talk about old patterns and beliefs or old traumas coming up to the surface for us to shift. What is the most helpful thing we can do to really release these things?
Come to the workshop online. Be part of it. One of the things that I'm going to share, and we're going to do some more on the workshop, because we're going to plug in a few different things that will even accelerate it even further. So first of all, when you're having trigger stuff coming up, allow yourself the opportunity to experience it. That sounds like, that's it? Well, you know something? Amazingly enough, and I'm sure Kimberly can throw 2 cents into that too, is a lot of times we feel that we're allowing ourselves to experience something, but in fact we're in resistance, or we're in denial, or the fact that we are, deeply engaged in it, and you're having the accentuation of polarity. So if you have an old traumatic emotion coming up, a program coming up, a trauma that comes up, or anything of that nature, as it comes up, give yourself the opportunity to observe it, to be present with it, feel it full. Don't resist it and don't push it away. And when I'm saying that is you're not allowing yourself to deny it or push it aside and I don't want to look at it type of thing, or see it as something bad, because that's the other thing we have to do. So the first part is acknowledging it, being present with it. Allow yourself to feel it completely. And if it makes you cry, it makes you upset, it makes you whatever, just feel it. I'm not saying explode. If it, for example, if anger comes up, instead of going out and lashing at everybody or anything like that, it's not about that, and it's not about actually holding it within. It's allowing ourselves to sit with it, be in the stew, be in the heat, be in that emotion, allowing yourself to feel it. So whenever it comes up, give yourself the opportunity to spend time with it, to feel it. Okay? And if you have to accentuate it, bring the rest of the story in, or just make stuff up, whatever, just to bring it up. Now that you've done that, you have observed it, and you have acknowledged it. Acknowledge whatever's coming up. Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge, and that's an emotional pain with the story. Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge the discomfort. Acknowledge the powerlessness that you may have had at that time. Acknowledge whatever's coming up for you. Just acknowledge it. Okay, I see it. It's great, fantastic. At that time I felt disempowered. Yes, I felt not good enough. I felt all of this stuff, right? So acknowledge every part of it. After you've done the acknowledgement part, be very grateful and thankful for the experience. You've created it. And I'm not looking at it in the sense of creating it and co-creating it and aligning it in the sense that a lot of people, well, I created, I made a mistake. No, you allowed that to come into your play because at that time it was necessary. And I have to say, at that time, because things are changing. You cannot compare what you see now to your past. Because at that time, that was necessary. At that time, that was the only thing that would nudge you or provide you whatever you needed to move forward. So you have to be an appreciation for the experience. Be appreciation for whoever played the role. It doesn't matter how negative the role, how polarized the role, or whatever. Be grateful for the role player. Be grateful for everything that played out, regardless what it looked like originally, what we labeled it, define it. So that's the next part. So you allow yourself to experience the emotion, feel it. You acknowledge everything that you felt, what the story was, whatever it may have been at the time. Give yourself the opportunity to appreciate it immensely. Spend time in it, appreciate it, and then go into a state of love. That love comes from your heart. That love is opening up the love for that creation, the love for whatever it is. Because when that's happening, you can see now that has no, all those attachments that it had, those spikes that were connected to you, and I'm just using that as an analogy, starts to break off so that it now becomes this beautiful floating part of it, and you can release that. You can let it go. You can send it off with love. You're not going to send it off because you're judging it. You're not going to send it off because you're pissed off at it. This is the thing. There's two ways to this, and I know I've talked about it many times, so I'm just going to remind you. There's two ways to look at this. You either want to change something because you hate it, you judge it, you compare it, you feel that, it's wrong to be in your life. That's very sticky. That is very hard, and if you want to do it the hard way, that's a good way to do it, and it stays around for a long time. The other part is get to a point, and this is why I shared all those other parts, to the point where you see it, that it was a perfection, and that it no longer serves. It no longer supplies whatever you need at this time. You have no judgment for it. You love the experience. You're okay with it. And then at that point, say, hey, I'm done with it. Because look at it, anything in your life, when you get to a point where you say, I'm done with this, things change very quickly. Purging happens very easily. All of it comes into it. But as long as we're judging it, as long as we're fighting it, as long as we're comparing it, as long as we're labeling it, defining it, or anything of that nature, it's going to be much, much harder. So in the workshop that's coming up this Sunday, and if you can't be there in person, you can always join us, for the video and audio recordings that will be also available. We're going to bring it up to the next level we're going to do it together. We're going to exercise the extra bonus that got plugged in at this point in time, which is all brand new. So we will play with that too. Anyways, that's how you move through it quickly. And right now, things are moving very quickly. So if you're looking at your day, your life, originally we would have a trigger here, then a trigger there, and a trigger here, and a trigger there. So what happens, it gives you time for integration, time for processing, time for clearing, whatever it is. Then as things speeded up, you will notice that the time was cut in half, okay? And there was less time to integrate, less time to clear. Now what we're looking at, we have one after the other. Why? Why are we doing this? Because we're on the roll, let's do it. We want to utilize the energies that are coming in. So let's go bang, 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 one after the other. So this is why it's going to seem somewhat insane. But that insanity is actually perfect too, because as you go insane, or what seems like insane, you actually relinquish the control. I need to do it this way, I need to do it that way, or that, I have to have it in bits and pieces, or anything of that nature. You kind of let go of that part of it. So you move through it a lot more easy. And then the thing is, energetically, we're supported. So it's harder to be sticky. Now, some of us really hold on to things. But, it's going to get harder and harder to hold on. And we've already experienced that. And it's going to get even further. And, of course, the polarity, accentuation, and all of that stuff is coming into play. Now, the other thing that Kimberly swears by, and I've talked about it many times before, when you're going through these emotions and whatever is playing out for you, the stories, programs, beliefs, write it down, write it down, write it down. I can't say it any more than that. Write it down, whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're observing, then go into it. And the reason you're writing it down, it keeps you on track. It also allows you to put an extra level of commitment in the work that you're doing so that you're supported even further. Because the ego mind is very crafty, if you want to call it that, to distract you, to bring you one way or another and not stay focused. So this is the thing, is if you have an emotional, for example, a trigger that comes up, or memory of a past, write down what that memory is. Write down how you felt. Write down why you felt that way. Write down, okay, why did it bother me in the first place? So I felt this way. Why did I feel this way? Whatever it is. And you're going to write it down, stick to that sequence, and you're going to unfold it. And as you're going down, a couple of things are going to happen. You get to the core of it, whatever that story, belief system, label, or opinion, or idea that supported that gave life to it, or that was shared by others. So you get to it, and then you can ask yourself, do I need to still give power to this? But you need to be neutral. This is why neutrality is very powerful. So neutrality and alignment becomes very powerful. So you'd say, okay, well, do I really require this any longer? Am I having fun with it? And if you say, no, I'm not having fun, then there's still an emotional charge. That's not going to work. So in essence, you're going to say, that was pretty freaking cool, and I really had a great experience and whatever else, but at this point in time, I choose to move forward in a different way. So you're going to be able to do that. So write it down is very powerful. So this is still in part and parcel of that. Those steps that I've talked about, and then writing it down. Now, when you're on the fly, you're having whatever experience you're having during the day while you're working or doing something of that nature, and you can't get to the writing it down, you can just jot down what the thing was, and you can spend some time for it. It's an investment in you, because if you want dividends, you want high returns, put time in working with you. Because in doing so, as your vibration increases, your frequency increases, your consciousness increases, your creation ability becomes more fluid, you're going to make so much more progress that it doesn't matter how much you invest on anything else, nothing will give you the return that you'll get as you become more advanced in yourself. And that's something that you have the opportunity to do.
Awesome, honey. Also, what can help if you have someone that you can share with that can hold space for you, can sometimes be helpful to opening things up or allowing things to flow easier,
Yeah, somebody holds space for you, somebody that, again, one of the things you have to pay attention, if somebody has an emotional charge, because sometimes you're playing with other people, and they start saying, oh, that's the wrong thing, that shouldn't have happened that way, whatever it is, then they're still polarized, they're still right, wrong, good, bad, and that's a good observation too. But at the same time, you want to play with people in situations where they're going to look at it and help you hold the space, but at the same time they're not going to in neutrality, because they're not going to continue reinforcing it. I've seen this many times. I've worked with practitioners for many years while I was doing more of the private sessions and so forth. So I would have private individuals and so forth going through their lives, but then I would have a lot of practitioners that come in. And a lot of times what I found with the practitioners is that they got involved with their own stories, programs, and belief systems, and they got triggered even when they were working on somebody else. And then they started putting their spin. And their spin was not neutral. Their spin was, oh, they should have never done that. You should stand up for your rights. You got to put your foot down, all of that stuff. Well, again, that's all polarization. Oh, you need to protect yourself. You need to do this. You need to do that. And again, those are exercising their belief system that was entrained in the 2D inverted, 3D inverted matrix version of it. This is why it's key, if there's polarization coming in, and say, okay, well, we're not going to play with polarization. Let's look at it in neutrality. Let's look at it in a sense, everything's an experience, everything's a dance, everything is a play, and then it becomes much easier.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question. Okay, this one is coming from Beatrice.
Hello, Beatrice.
If several planets have been experiencing 3D, why the shift that the human species is experiencing from 3D to 5D with Gaia is happening in a way that never happened before? What exactly makes the difference with other planets shifting to 5D?
Well, look at it this way. It's not about 5D. 5D is a consciousness. A 5D is your sourceness coming into play. Every playground is different. Every playground has different physicalities, different ways of expressing, different operating systems, different matrices, and so forth. It's like saying, well, I'm going to get skilled in playing Donkey Kong, whatever that video game is called, and then, okay, I don't have to do it anywhere else. But every game's going to be different. You're going to get into a car racing game, and it's going to be different. You're going to get into acrobatic game, it's going to be different. So the thing is, what is unique? First of all, bringing organic 3D and organic 5D on this particular planet is different than bringing it on other planets, which has happened. And there are still planets that are still operating below that. But at the same time, it's different because the physicalities are different, the playground's different, everything is different. Because this is a thing. It's a game, it's one game, a different game, or whatever else. That's the first part. The second part, you have to understand why I've said this has never been experienced before is because, first of all, it's never been experienced this way on planet Earth in these types of physicalities. But at the next level is the rapid change from a inverted 3D, 2D, inverted matrix state, complete asleep state, complete robotic, completely pattern response, programmed to the hilt in disconnect, and advancing in such a powerful way makes already its uniqueness in a short period of time. As you can see, things have moved very slow. It wasn't until things started to ramp up a little bit more in 1987, then some more in 2012, and now 2020 is even further. So each of these, at this point in time, it's 1987, you can see each time it's been speeding up, so it's moving forward. Now, the other thing is, Gaia was already an experience as it was, because when Gaia got retooled 15,000 years ago, is one of the few planets, very few planets, that were designed to self-upgrade. That means I put an operating system to operate in organic 3D to go all the way to 90 without ever being retooled. So that means it would respond along the way to the different dimensional consciousness and will support those different consciousness to be experienced itself in physical form. That was the one thing. Because most of all planets, it's like a school. Let's use the analogy as a school. You have a school, and if it's designed a classroom for grade 3, it's going to specialize in grade 3. And then once they've graduated, another set of students come in to experience grade 3. And that's how it's been done on different planets with a little bit of variance. But when the experiment was done 15,000 years ago, they wanted to do something absolutely different. So what they did is they tuned the planet to do from third dimensional to ninth dimensional. So that was the first part. The second part of it is the sentient beings on planet Earth is a combination of slightly modified versions of life form, meaning all the plant lives, all the insects, all the different animals that are on the planet, oceanic birds and all of that, even reptiles, were all brought in from different planets, slightly tuned to operate here, so giving us a massive amount of variety. And each of these sentient beings, all of these varieties carry a very specific frequency, creating a potpourri a potpourri of different frequencies and levels of consciousness on one playground. But it doesn't stop there. So here's planet Earth, Gaia, that has that blend. The next part of the blend that was also amazing is the human body. There's been human bodies before, what we called humans, in different states and so forth. But when this was retooled, this physicality that you're in right now, that we're all in at this time, when that was redesigned, it was brand new, from scratch. Okay? So we're not looking at, coming in from the Stone Age or coming in from, what do they call those? Through evolution, the monkeys, and then there were cavemen and all that stuff. That's not how it worked, okay? That's kind of a story that was put out there. Really, Darwin's theory and so forth, of evolution and so forth. That's not the case. That part of that evolution was really different creations on different planets and so forth to experience different things, and then it was kind of downloaded and misunderstood and say, okay, that's our planet, which has its perfection anyways. So our bodies were completely redesigned. It was brand new, from scratch. Now, what do? Most physicalities have representatives or representations that come from different already existing species, plugging those parts in. So you're taking different species, you put one or two of these species, you modify it and code it. Now, when I'm talking about species, I'm talking about operating systems that govern the holographic light show that we are. Okay? So the human, us, okay, at this point in time, one day I'll learn how to draw, or maybe not. The human itself, when this came into play, when it was designed, it decided to do something different on planet Earth this time around. I'm not talking about other times around, because we've had Atlanteans, we had the Lumerians, we've had many, many other different life species. Some were huge, some were smaller, some were everything. But those were all retoolings, because planets get retooled. You know, eventually the planets are not used anymore. So at this point in time, when the human was put together, they decided, okay, let's do something. Let's not take one or two different species. Let's take 12 different species. So that's what happened. They took the genetic encodements, they took the operating system from 12 different existing species on different planets. They blended it and created the human body that you're in. Okay? So here you are, you're experiencing yourself in this human body, which is a makeup of 12 different species. So that's already another level of uniqueness. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, because it's on the question list, if you know the, I know you wrote the list down at one time. Do you have it handy? Or
I'm not going to share it.
Okay, because someone
I
wants
will
you
in
to.
one of the other episodes
Okay,
coming
share
up.
it another time. Okay.
Okay, because I want to lay it out, because each one has its input.
Okay.
Okay, so I do have them. I did find them after all. Okay, because I had that stuff downloaded some time ago, and all the different makeup of the species. I've had it for a little while now, and I haven't.
Put a reminder.
Each time I need to go there, my higher self keeps saying, no, not yet, not yet, not yet. So it'll come soon. All right, so that's part of the difference there. So now, the other part of the experience or modification that was different is 15,000 years ago, when these bodies were designed, they were designed to operate very differently than what we've been experiencing. They had programs, but they're not the programs that we're talking about, not that inverted 2D, 3D, inverted matrix type of operating system. It was very much organic, with the tuning to go further. So one of the other additional experiences, after 5,000 years of being in its natural design and evolving accordingly in that design and becoming more conscious of that design, there was an allowance made to allow another species to come onto the planet to modify, to make things even more challenging. That has never been done to the same degree, to this type of physicality, which had already had 12 different species. It's been done before, but it's done at a much lower scale and had less to modify. So in this particular application, it was modified 10,000 years ago. That's when the moon was brought in as a powerful satellite. That's when the imposed inverted matrix was plugged in. That's when we started stimulating from organic 3D to inverted 3D and then 2D. And then at the same time, an operating system called the ego was applied, which is artificial intelligence that learns on its own and was plugged in. So we went through 10,000 years of that type of experience of having that. So that was already another part of it. So when we're talking about the uniqueness of this experience, is that now we started to reverse that whole plug-in of 10,000 years ago, to bring it not only back to the original 5,000 years, which was the organic version of ourselves with that operating system, the original blueprint, then in its upgraded version. Now we have to understand these 12 contributors that were all interconnected to each of our DNA. That's why we have 12 DNA with double helixes and telomeres and so forth, because each one was a transmitter receiver that kept its integrated connection to the species. As they evolved, it assisted us to evolve. However, when that inversion came in 10,000 years ago, and we don't have to go into that because I've talked about it many times, that's when most of those DNAs got turned off. What got turned off? The basic fundamental operating system of it remained, but not intact fully. and then the communication channels were turned off. So that means we did not receive the upgrades along the way. So that did not allow us to evolve physically either, because each of these species were contributing anyways. And we're also providing feedback. And this is the thing, it went back and forth. It wasn't just one-sided. So that was part. So that's what makes this experience going from, see, the thing is, when we're looking at it, we're not going, you know, what everybody talks about, we're going from 3D to 5D, okay? And thinking that this 3D is a bad thing and that we've been living this 3D. No, we haven't. I know not too many people talk about it, but I do, okay? Because the one thing we have to understand, what we've been living up to now that people keep referring to, that we're stepping from 3D to 5D, is in fact 2D, and I know I said it a million times, and inverted 3D. This involves devolving, these evolving. So we're going from 2D, some people to do 2D, inverted 3D, to organic 3D to 5D. That's what we're doing. So these are different levels of consciousness. That's all it is. That's what we're shifting from. So when, you know, I kept saying that, oh, listen, you know, some of us, the majority of the people are going into organic 3D. It's like, oh my God, we're still stuck there. No, you're stepping from out of this, which was run by the inverted matrix and your artificial intelligence called the ego. We're going from that to this, organic 3D and organic 5D, where it doesn't utilize the ego any longer, because the ego cannot operate when you're in organic 3D and organic 5D, because the ego works in reverse. It creates stories to make you feel less than or pump you up just to bring you down, type of thing. So egotistic expressions may seem like one thing or another, but it's very much related to kind of bring you into, keep the polarity part, separation part, the fear part, you know, all of those lower frequency parts. So that's what the difference is here on planet Earth versus other. And the uniqueness is, because this is kind of a big experiment, because it really hasn't been done to the degree of now. The other thing is, you have to understand, our galaxy is cut up in quarters, okay? So you got the central hub here, what we call the galactic central sun, all right? So each of these quadrants has got a center planet or center solar system connected to a multitudes of planets and so forth, and they're all communicating the same thing with each one of these. Not doing justice in my drawing here, but so we happen to be located in the center where we have 400 planets that are connected with us. 400 planets, it doesn't mean 400 solar systems, but 400 planets, because some of the solar systems have multiple planets like ours, like what we call Earth, which the sun is our solar system, but it has several planets involved in it. And each of the planets, including the sun itself, has beings in it. And some of the planets have inner and outer, like planet Earth does. So just to give you an idea. Hopefully I've covered that adequately enough, or did I confuse everybody to know to end?
I think you did pretty good, honey.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so moving to a next question. This is one's from Irene. I currently have to focus to finish my PhD in a year and a half. Other opportunities are showing up in my life that I could do alongside my PhD, but I was told it would be better in this period to just focus on the PhD because of the unfoldments that are coming and that I'll have to adjust to. How can I listen to the wiser part of me to know what the best choice would be and move along smoothly?
Okay, so the wiser part of you, you're basically connecting with yourself. You're connecting to your heart. You're connecting to your soul. Okay, now there's several wise parts to you. You have an innate consciousness that your body has. You have a human entity that actually has been advancing and observing much. But of course you have a soul that is multidimensional and has a tremendous amount of consciousness and wisdom, which also has a connection. Of course, you can also tune into your third eye, which is connected to to the different levels of other dimensional aspects of itself, and then of course the solar, your crown chakra, which is connected to source itself, which is the streaming. Now, what you're doing is basically you want to have clarity. So at this point in time, say, okay, I'm open fully and completely to experience what best suits where I am and where I am going. Now, there is no direct saying, okay, I'm going from A to B. I'm going from A and continuing wherever that goes. Okay, so from that point, meditating, going into a quiet space or something of that nature, and connecting with yourself, connecting with your heart, and say, okay, what is best for me to be of service, not only to myself, to whatever you have intention to provide from a grander scale in the direction that we're going, and meaning the direction of consciousness, the direction of our new world that we're creating. Can you remind me again what you said before? Remind me afterwards about creating our world.
Okay.
Just remind me that, because just in case I forgot. Because it was part of the last thing I finished, but then it slipped my mind. Now it came back. Okay. So, what was I just saying?
We were talking about being in meditation.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. So in the meditation, you connect with yourself, and you basically ask yourself, okay, going where the direction that we're going as a civilization, as the experiencer, as myself too, what would be best? Now, there may be paths hand in hand. So you're looking at different avenues, you're looking at different things, and then you're looking at your PhD, for example. Okay, so you can have them running side by side, or you can put one focus more on the other. However, at the same time, what I would suggest by saying, okay, what best suits me or serves me? That's one way. The second way is see yourself going down the path of the PhD and kind of omitting that other opportunity that you have, or what is presenting for you. Putting that aside and just being in the PhD part, see how that feels. See yourself going through the motions, experiencing yourself going to school, going wherever you're doing to get the PhD. Okay, so see yourself playing out that role. The other part of it is, okay, I'm going to bring some of this in while you're still playing that role and see how that feels. Then you can shift it and say, okay, I'm going to go in this other direction without the PhD. Unplug that part and see how that feels. And when I say feel, see yourself going through the whole experience and see if it resonates or not. I'm talking about resonance, not about emotions. I'm not, oh, that feels bad or whatever it is. Just see, oh, okay, this feels more in resonance. This feels more comfortable in the sense of meaning that it seems and feels more aligned and so forth. And then you can plug in some of that in there and see what ratio would work best for you. Now, we have to understand things are changing. Huge. You can tell. A lot of the educational system is obsolete or becoming more obsolete as along the way. That does not mean that part of it is not still utilizable as we move forward. It may have to continue to upgrade and whatever else. To get the piece of paper that has PhD in it means absolutely nothing except that if we're still playing in the inverted matrix part. However, what you learn from it, the experiences and so forth, may be applicable as you go along. So you want to feel how much focus you put on one versus the other, and how much to blend and not to blend, and how to continue to shift from one to the other. There are people that have felt like they don't want to continue with school anymore. That's great, because they don't want to be further conditioned and so forth, and they really want to expand, explore themselves, and use higher technologies that may supersede what the school may provide. But that's a feeling that they have within themselves. A lot of the younger people are not so drawn to it, and this is why they're drawn to the mass media stuff, or what we call social media. They're drawn to play elaborate games and so forth, because it allows their imagination to expand. Now, of course, I'm not saying that those things are good, because, well, not that there's good or bad, that it's super supportive, but it does play a role anyways. But you realize that, you know, playing the typical game is becoming less and less appealing, and more kids, young people or whatever else, are putting their focus elsewhere. Now, of course, the things are not crystal clear for most of them at this point in time, so they're kind of waffling around, trying to figure themselves out or whatever it is, or, you know, putting in time for, loosely said. So really, so the answer to your question is you need to feel through it. So you're connecting with your heart. You're going into that higher state of yourself. What I would recommend, and I've talked about this before, is that when you're in that quiet meditative start or just in that point, just bring your soul in, call your soul in. Soul, fully embody. I choose your presence with me fully embodied. Then ask your soul to activate its home frequency, the highest level of home frequency that your body can handle. And what that does is actually tunes your vibration frequency, bringing you up in, it was in my other drawing there, bringing you up into the organic 3D or organic 5D. So while you're there, you're already accessing something much different than you were before. Now, the other part is, while you're there, you also ask yourself, you say, okay, I choose to activate the highest source essence that my body can contain. So what you're doing is you're tapping into that sourceness of yourself as source, as the field of existence to bring up. And that raises your vibration even further and usually matches very much closely to what your soul is bringing in. You can also ask your innate consciousness of your body to interact, to support, because at that point in time, it also has access. Then when you have all of that put together or aligned all of that, now you can spend time and see, like I said, you go and see yourself playing different roles, bringing in a certain ratio of each of the roles, and see which one feels most resonant. Now, what's important is whatever you feel now is the steps you take. But check time to time, because at times there's variances. So you feel more drawn to the PhD part, so you're putting more focus and time there, and then you're going to start feeling certain things need to shift. So you allow it to shift. So you tune in every so often, because you're basically tweaking your navigation, you're tweaking your focus and so forth. You have to be diligent and paying attention. It's no more like I'm going to set a goal and go in that direction. Okay. Yes, you can, and you can aim that direction, but you have to be attentive and observant of how you are guiding yourself along the way, because you're going to feel certain things nudge you one way or another. Or now the nudging is from a higher sense where it feels a calmness and feels I need to change this, not from an emotional reaction as I don't want to do this. So these are some of the things to play with. Hopefully that helps. But
Thank
throw
you.
your
And that
2
was
cents
no,
in.
I didn't have any 2 cents. I think that pretty much covers it. Did you want to be reminded about creating our world?
Yes, yes. So back to what I was saying before, when it came up to the 5D part, remember, organic 3D, organic 5D is a platform. It's like a school, okay? What that school looks like, let's go back to, take a step back. Here's the world. We have organic 3D and organic 5D world. We have the opportunity to play in organic 3D and organic 5D world. We're available to play in organic 3D and organic 5D physicality, because our physicality represents that. Now, when we're talking about creation, we're going beyond anything that's ever been created before. So when we're bringing in organic 3D and organic 5D, it's streaming through us. We're the ones that are shaping the world. This is why I say the focus is important. It's to pay attention to how we design our world. What does that mean? It means that without us, the world cannot play out the video game, cannot play out what we call the playground or the reality that we're experiencing around us. Consciousness, frequencies, vibrations, encodements, upgrades, whatever it is, moves through us, in us, upgrades us, and we are all projecting the world, the reality. Now, you look at our world right now, it's super polarized. You see the rights, wrongs, good and bad accentuated. The insanity, if you want to call it that. We're just labeling it so that we understand it. We can see all of that. And many of us are saying, how's the world going to change? How is all this new 5D world or organic 3D world going to come into play when all this insanity is there? All this stuff is going on. Because most of the stuff is all 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix, and ego driven. And ego operates on programs. Okay? Programs, belief systems, perceptions, adopted ideas, patterns. It uses all of that. So if we're looking at a world that reflects this, how do we actually go into this organic stuff? Well, this is the key. Everything's being upgraded. We are being upgraded, but we are the ones that are creating the world. So the organic 5D world does not exist. The organic 3D world does not exist. The platforms exist. The baseline exists. What's there to support us energetically exists. And there's just a skeleton of it that exists. But we are the ones that are building it. So as we are changing, as we are becoming more conscious, as we start to shape things, because we're doing this all the time, we're constructing it. It's like looking at a piece of land and say, okay, I've got all the materials here, but there's no building. I got to build the building. But I have the materials for the building. I have the blueprint for the buildings, but we need to put the building together. And this is it. We're building fifth dimensional consciousness world, the 5D world, the new world. This is why it's coming. The world is always new because it's always upgrading anyways, one way or another. But the thing is to match. And this is the thing. What we're doing is we're bringing the world, the 5D world, to us. And what I mean by that is creating an alignment with ourselves. So the 5D version of ourself is now aligning or creating an alignment with the 5D world because we're shaping the world to match us. And that's what we're doing.
It's coming into existence.
It's coming into existence. Thank you. That's a good way to put it. So we're bringing it into existence. We're shaping it. Now, the amount of polarity, the amount of conflict, the amount of craziness is only going to exist until we finish purging all of this stuff. But the more we purge individually, more of that's coming out of us. So that means our world starts to change. Our immediate reality starts to change. Our interactions with all the different levels of community, from family to significant others to playgrounds at work, whatever it is, all start to shape around you. But while you're doing that, you're also shaping or complementing, contributing to the collective construct, collective redesigning. That's what's bringing the new world in. Now, I've talked about this before. We're all a piece of the puzzle. So each piece of the puzzle makes up this whole.
I'm laughing at his puzzle piece. It looks good. I like it, honey.
Okay.
Well, that's way nice.
Okay. That's more to the puzzle piece that you're used to. Each one of us is a piece of the puzzle that carries the key, the frequency, whatever is necessary to create our organic 5D world. So this is why all of us are participating. Now, some of the people, a good chunk of it, have chosen to stick with this for quite a while and push to the max until, the cutoff line comes in at this point in time, and then say, okay, we got to be done with this. This has got to be done. And if they're not done, and they choose not to be participating and upgrading to a minimum organic 3D, then they will choose to leave. And they'll leave. They can leave anytime. And a lot of them have, and a lot more will, as they choose. To the amount and anything else, that will be determined along the way, because the amount of fun they're going to have, or whatever it is they have to decide, right? So we give them the capacity. First of all, they don't stop existing. Their soul continues to exist. Their human entity continues to exist. And the physicality becomes, again, it still will continue to exist because it's part of Gaia. The body is an extension of Gaia. which guy is an extension of source. Of course, it's source. The human entity is, kind of a version of a soul that is dwelling on planet Earth. And then we're talking about the soul itself is still part of source. Everything's part of source. There's nothing outside of source. I mean, you can't say, well, I got to get to source. Well, no, I got to connect with that frequency rather than, the lower frequency. But that's all source too. It doesn't matter how dark, how polarized or anything like that. That's still source. So it's not outside of that. Anyways, go ahead.
Can we move on to another question then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. So I'm going back so you peeps know I'm going from YouTube people to Facebook people, back and forth. Okay.
I needed to create more empty pages here. But
yeah, just
okay.
rub something out there, honey.
I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. So the next question is, the air quality is worse than it's ever been due to all the smoke pollution in the air. It's so bad they're closing schools and recommending we stay inside. Do you have any tips to attain neutrality when the air quality is so hazardous due to the forest fires burning thousands of acres of forestry in the States? So there's lots going on.
Yeah, that's a good one, because there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of different layers to it, and why it's happening, and what's contributing to it, and so forth. Yes, absolutely. The air quality may not be good, okay, because there's a lot of particulates in the air and so forth. Carbon dioxide and sometimes probably carbon monoxide, but in regards to all of that is playing out at this point, the key is to stay in neutrality. And how do you get to that neutrality? The thing is, if we feel that it's a bad thing and we put a lot of focus on it and we're going into fear and protection, or the fact that, we may not survive or anything of that nature, then whatever we're experiencing as air quality or lower air quality or very particularly filled air at this point in time becomes accentuated, because the focus becomes into it. So we're tuning into that. So now we become much more observant to it. So the point is, yes, all of this is playing out. It is supported to some degree or another to allow us to make some shifts and whatever else. And, regardless, even the back end stuff that is being stimulated to make it happen. And when I'm saying back end, I'm talking about the ground level stimuli that are there, because some of it is using weird technologies to be able to accentuate it. So the point of being neutrality is not to judge it as something bad. See it for, okay, this is happening. Let's connect with ourselves. That's, yes, you're going to take some measures to make sure that the air, you can filter out some of the particulars or whatever it is. And if you're spending time in the house, I mean, you have to understand the air that comes in from outside. I mean, so if you have anything that runs on, that has filters or whatever else, you can do that. But the point here is to focus on the fact of seeing that this is kind of the dance or the movie around us and so forth, and not to judge it or to be emotionally charged about it. Yes, and it's hard. I mean, we could feel the fact of saying, okay, a lot of our sentient beings are being transmuted at this point in time, in the sense of where it's burning, right? So, yes, I mean, it is part of a process. It's not ideal in many ways, and it is still serving us in one way or another. But again, whatever's burning, maybe using oxygen and creating carbon dioxide and whatever else, and the carbon dioxide now feeds other sentient beings or plants, because plants live on carbon dioxide. This whole thing about the global warming and the scare of carbon dioxide is totally skewed altogether. I mean, a lot of this true scientists understand that. However, yes, our air quality is dropping, and the fact of the toxins that we're putting in the air and so forth, that's where the focus is. Okay, let's find a way to clean up the air so that we're not putting all these toxins in and so forth. But that comes with the shifting of consciousness, which we are experiencing. We're becoming more aware of it. We're putting more attention to it. We're going to take steps of it. But still, there's a lot of levels of polarity. So if you're in a situation where you are now surrounded by these forest fires and all these this poor air quality, I mean, yeah, take some steps and so forth, but do whatever you can not to be into fear. So if you have fear, acknowledge the fear, experience the fear, and then purge the fear, because you want to look at it and say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to be together, whatever it is. We can filter whatever we need to filter, and this is going to move along. And then what happens is you start to kind of create an energetic bubble where you're not interfered by the whatever's outside as much. Okay, you may still have some of that experience anyways because you may smell it in the air or whatever, but at the same time it's not going to impact you in the same degree. So it's really it's about that. So to get to that neutrality is to acknowledge that, okay, this is part of the collective experience. There's nothing wrong, right, or good or bad about it, but it's just an experience, and it is creating a certain type of purging at this point in time that is staging something different to play out. So coming to the awareness that we need to take some steps or anything of that nature, take the steps that feels most resonant with you without the fear component coming in. And like I said, if the fear comes up, experience it and allow it to move through you. You were going to say something about that?
But I'm thinking that at some point we'll do another episode just on what is playing out behind the scenes in a way, because there is so much playing out that we're not aware of, and so it may seem one way on a human 3D or 2D level or whatever level, but on another higher, grander level, there is something playing out that is for the benefit of us. We can't always, with our human mind, sometimes always understand why something looks like it looks, and it seems like it's a bad thing happening. When if 10 years from now, 5 years, 3 months from now, you look back and say, okay, that played out for a reason that way for us to get this out of it or that. So it's also trusting that in our own, that there is something else unfolding that maybe we don't have an awareness around at this time, but that we will get the awareness of why at some point. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly, but
yes, yeah, we can do that, because I mean, there's a lot of more people are coming to aware of the back end stuff that is coming up in the sense of the manipulation, for example. Then there's others that are also getting clarification on the grander purpose of all of this, and we can play with all of that. Again, so at this point, as we're looking at our world and our reality, how we are choosing to experience all of this, we have to understand that as we're going along the way here and playing with all of this, is that there's a bigger, grander part of it. Now, as for the different climate changes and all of that stuff, it is not because of our own efforts. There's a lot more on a collective scale, what we're utilizing, what is Gaia's providing us as the opportunity, the energies of within our solar system, even the energies that are being transmitted through the sun and so forth, is really the main reason all of this is playing out. But it's all playing out for us, not against us or anything of that nature. It may look that way in the sense of a deeper understanding of what's going on at this point, so we can play with that.
Okay, so we'll move on to another question. Okay, this one is from Anita, and it says, with our physical bodies shifting and changing as we expand and evolve, shouldn't we be requiring to eat less? I live completely plant-based lifestyle. I can't stop eating once I start. I don't even recognize my body from the last 8 months. I feel extremely heavy in my physical body and very uncomfortable. I almost feel like I'm self-sabotaging and I'm feeling out of control. I've had eating disorders for 40 plus years and it's all coming up, so magnified now. I feel so lost, don't know how to release this, but I'm so ready to be free of this bondage. Please help. Any input would be gratefully greatly helpful.
Okay. All right. Hopefully, are we still transmitting okay? Because I just saw things flicker here. So
Yeah, it's been
steady.
It's been pretty good, but there has been glitches along the way because the stream isn't perfect.
Okay.
But yeah,
okay,
it's streaming.
All right. So in regards to that, okay. So right now, with all of these changes that are going on, of course, yes, you're going to feel that you're going to be guided to different types of food and different focus points and so forth. That's one part of it. But food is very emotionally charged. Food has a lot of programs within it itself. So there's going to be people that have a judgment about themselves, their bodies, and whatever else. Like, for example, you're talking about in having an eating disorder, okay? Well, what is an eating disorder? It's basically where we put a certain intention to food or definitions to food to provide a certain sensorial experience, but also to align with a particular, how can we call it? What's the word? I lost it. Okay, emotional response. So basically, the body to contribute, or what you, by eating the food, to contribute to support certain emotional parts of ourselves. It also supports certain programs, stories, and belief systems of ourselves. And what does that mean? The stories, programs, belief systems of ourselves have to do with the fact that, you know, we may have felt that, okay, if I look this way, this means that I am not attractive, I am not accepted, that, you know, it's also security, because some people use it for security, because whenever they look slim, they get certain attention that they're not preferring. And then when they're not, they're getting attention they don't prefer too. So they kind of swing back and forth. So the reason that we're feeling what we're feeling and experiencing what we're experiencing, you're going to feel that the weights go up and down, and I'm experiencing it myself also, even in complete plant-based, because a lot of times we use the food as a grounding because of the energies of the food that are coming in. Of course, the more natural state that the food is in, meaning that the fresher the raw that it is, the higher the frequency will carry. But depending on the waves that are coming through, sometimes we use the food as a grounding method for ourselves, in a sense, so that we allow the energies to come through a little slower and then shift accordingly. So the one thing you want to look at is whatever stories, program, belief systems, and so forth that are coming up when you, say, put in some extra weight, or that you are binging, or that, in fact, that you are, you know, drawn to eat and eat and eat and eat. And just pay attention to it. Say, why am I feeling this way? You know, what am I feeling that's streaming me to be able to do this, or to go into that direction? Because when you're doing that, when you're observing all of that, what happens is that you get to see what your story program that may have come through childhood, may have come through different experiences within yourself. And you want to go in and visit those. You want to look at them and see how they apply today. A lot of it is being purged. So you're getting another kick in the can sort of thing. You're having the experience. Sometimes it may take a little longer, like you said, the last 8 months or whatever it is, because it's taking that long to bring it to that point of, where it brings the highest level of that program or conditioning and response, so that you can see it much more clearly and clear up all the different links to it. So at this point is, yes, first of all, look at how you feel about wherever your previous condition or your current condition, your physicality is. Look at whatever it brings up, emotional-wise, story-wise, and so forth. Self-judgment, self-categorizing. Look at, why am I using it? Is it doing this for me or that? Is it giving me an excuse not to do certain things? Or is it using for me so that I don't get certain attention? You want to look at that. Spend some time exploring it. And when you're exploring it, write down the different things that come up for you, and then take some time to look at them. And then see, first of all, like I was saying before, allow whatever emotions come up. Acknowledge its story, acknowledge the program, acknowledge whatever it is, have an appreciation for it because it's experientially rich. Send love to it, and then you can let it go. But you want to be in a position where you're not judging it. It's hard to get rid of something if you judge yourself. You're judging your physical appearance. You're judging your patterns or whatever. You don't want to judge anything. You want to accept everything as is, and then see, how do I resonate with it? It doesn't resonate anymore, so I'm going to take steps to change that. A lot of times, even if you don't reduce the amount of eating you do, your body changes anyways. But at this point, you also notice that you won't. Now, with the changes, you're going to feel at sometimes unsettled, and a lot of times we use the food like grounding, like I was saying. But other times, you're also, if you're really paying attention to it, you'll notice that some of the foods that you're are just emotionally charged, but are not super conducive to the physical support. So you want to look at all of those things. So spend some time to look at whatever the stories, program, belief system, perceptions, and ideas, and adopted ideas, and self-judgment, and emotional charges that come with it. You want to look at all of those things, and just step by step visit them, feel them, experience them, and then you can just start letting them go. And that's what you're doing. You let them go because they no longer serve you, but you have no judgment about it. It feels cool if you're one way or another. You want to get to a position where it doesn't matter if you have 100 extra pounds or you don't have 100 extra pounds. You're okay either way, but then you have a preference. Well, I feel better. I feel more in resonance when I'm 100 pounds lighter because of the fact, and I'm just throwing numbers out, because of the fact that I feel more loose in mobility and I don't have to carry the extra baggage or whatever you want to call it, and not baggage in a negative way in the fact of carrying more of earth ground, because everything that you're eating, you're carrying part of Gaia within yourself. So the extra so-called weight is extra Gaia-ness that you're putting into your body. But do you really need that when you're expressing through Gaia? Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, honey.
Any input on your sense regarding that?
It's tough, I think, too, because we're all changing. Our bodies are changing, and maybe we're processing foods differently and not the same as we used to. And yeah, I think we maybe don't need to eat as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe there's some programs around that. I don't know, because I know I'm personally experienced that as well. But then again, menopause and hormones have changed my body too. So I guess there's just looking at it with awareness and really paying attention to your body and listening to it and really tuning into it, which I know that I don't always do. I'll ignore it even though I can hear it saying, no, don't put that in your mouth, don't eat that, or eat less of that. And so it's like really, truly, we're being asked, I think, and by our bodies to pay attention to them more and listen to them. And if that's what gets our attention, then that's what it'll do to get our attention.
Yes. So when it comes to the ego itself, the ego has judgment about how you look, what you do, how you do it, and so forth. But it also uses, at this point in time, to kind of deflate you or anything of that nature, because first of all, it stimulates you to go through a particular pattern, because a lot of us have got used to certain patterns, a certain way of managing through the different situations. But then what the ego does, first of all, it guides you through those to utilize those patterns, and then it judges you because you went through the patterns and so forth. So just pay attention to that. So if there's judgment, there's uncomfortableness, that's really just basically the ego playing its part. So you want to acknowledge that and say, okay, well, good enough that you're sharing what you're sharing, but I'm not choosing to support that any longer. So you're allowing it to change. So even the patterns coming into play at this point in time, a lot of us have adopted patterns from our family, from our observations, through our own patterns, through our own experiences and so forth. So we're basically stepping out of those patterns. Try not to do it all at once, cold turkey, whatever it is. I mean, some people can do it, but in most cases start shifting it. So what you're going to do is just, you may eat a little bit and then just take a little break in between or whatever it is. And then if you still need that some more. But pay attention to it. Is it the body that wants it, or is it just one of the patterns or one of the sensorial components of it that is stimulating because I'm used to having something salty afterwards, or whatever, So you just want to pay attention to that, and that'll help. But our bodies are changing. So there is a little bit of confusion sometimes that the body experiences because of all the changes and from its old patterns. But yes, our bodies require a lot and less food.
Okay. All right. So I'll move on to the next question.
Sure.
How many more questions do you want to do?
Well, I'll probably go maximum another 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. And whatever questions we don't get to, I'll take them down and copy them, and we'll get to them at some point. Okay. Astra is asking, what are templates? Can meditation exercises activate them, and how long does it take to complete each light body template?
Well, the templates exist, okay? We already have templates. Are we going to access the templates? What happens is we've created multiple templates. We have a basic template, and new ones are coming into play too, so they're being upgraded. A template actually helps shape your reality, how you feel, how you observe, how you experience, how you communicate, how you interact as your creator being that you are, and so forth. So there is no fixed time for any template to activate or utilize it, start utilizing it, shifting from one older template to a more current template. So it depends on how quickly, because a lot of times the old programs will, tend to bring you back to the old templates. So you want to clear out those old programs and so forth for you to utilize the new templates, because a lot of the new templates that we have are, like you were saying, at the higher bands of frequency. So they're in your either 5D or, organic 3D. But, the older templates tend to be in the 2D and an inverted 3D version of it, right? So these templates, basically, the more you connect with yourself, the more you purge out the old stuff, all the what you call the inverted 3D, then the templates become more active and utilizable. Yes. So and that's how you kind of work with when it comes to that. Yes, there are different templates that have different expressions and different experiences, and each of these templates, adjust certain parts of our experience. It will adjust, some of it will adjust how the body responds, how you see things in a sense of an emotional component of it. It has different templates that also help us create different levels of reality that we use. So there's different templates that are being reactivated within ourselves and upgraded at the same time. So just pay attention to the patterns that you go back, because that's usually a representation of the old patterns or the old templates. So by connecting more to yourself, then you get to utilize more of the upgraded, newer templates within ourselves. Now, some people have templates that are kind of very focused on different dimensional consciousness, but also different dimensional playgrounds. So we may be bringing that. You have to understand that planet Earth itself is not very, say, hardcore in the sense of this is it, because it is a multi-dimensional planet and it has a lot of different inputs, because planet Earth, again, also uses not only the sentient beings on the planet, they come from all different planets and carry a certain energy, but also Gaia itself actually is receiving, right, from its core, different streams of energy codes and so forth, and spectrums of light that are activating its own templates. So the template itself is also going through upgrades, but it has a multiple layers. So each one of us, as we're coming in, we're a very individualized while being as a part of a collective expression, carrying our particular template. The templates are not across the board exactly the same. There are some base templates, but then each one of us carries a template that may come from a whole different dimensional consciousness or a different sense of expression. I don't know if that made any sense for you at this point. It's like kind of complicated to explain the whole thing. That will take me another half an hour
I could add it to the maybe down the road to expand on later or more.
Okay.
So
just focus on connecting with yourself and so forth. Those templates come into play. Each time a burst of energy comes in and upgrade that comes in, it will stimulate and upgrade those templates anyways, and it becomes part of your template, basically getting rid of all the older stuff anyways.
Okay. So the next question, I'm going to combine two questions because they're kind of in the same line. Karen is asking, how would you recommend one deals with the headaches being experienced with these high energies? And Terry is asking, why do we have so many ascension symptoms?
Yeah. You want to come and explain that one, Miss Kimberly?
Yeah, but your headaches are different, I think. I don't know. You have lots going on, so.
Okay. Are you sure? You don't want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. really the symptoms are all about is it's still part of the purging what's going on. As each time a burst of energy comes in, it may, in one way or another, bring up old patterns, old programs, old ways of feeling, basically old expressions that are, sometimes these expressions are our own personal, some of it comes from our lineage, some of it comes in, because as we're doing that. So the symptoms are basically because of the fact of our body has been so involved in running in these older, lower vibrational patterns and operating systems that as it's upgrading, there's little blocks of clusters of old consciousness that can create pain sometimes, discomfort, malfunctionality, in this case headaches, migraines, you name it. So it's going to stimulate that. But the thing is, at this point in time, it's also to pay attention to what it's bringing up for you while those things are coming up. So spend some time writing it up. So if you're having some of these symptoms, look at the symptom. First of all, you want to look at why, what comes up when you have these symptoms. What story, program, belief system, what emotional charge comes up. You want to look at those things. The other thing is you want to look at it and say, okay, what's my message behind this? What is there to show me? Where's my resistance? Where is any of that stuff? So you want to pay attention to that, write it down, and then start looking into those areas, because that will help break up some of these clusters, these energetic, dense clusters within ourselves, so that we don't have to have the same level of experience and what we call the accentuated sensorial component of it. So as we focus on any of that, as those things come up, see, not everybody experiences the same level of symptoms. And some very minimal, some a lot more. It depends on where you're at, how you're at, what you've agreed to experience or not experience, what you're actually doing as part of the changes that are occurring, not only with yourself, but through your whole lineage and whatever else. Some of these are stuff that Gaia's kind of purging through us. Not that Gaia's doing it, but we're taking it on. Some of it is coming from the human collective consciousness that we're allowing to purge through us. At this point, some of them are, stuff that's coming from past lives or whatever else. But they're just moving through us at this point in time, and to allow it to clear through you. You don't have to be the clearinghouse, as they call it. But when they come up, first of all, acknowledge it, present it, accept it in, and see it as a friend. Could be a pain in the ass type of friend, sort of thing. Just using that as an analogy. But at the same time, accept them as a friend and say, okay, friend, what do you got to share? What are we looking at? What's bringing up for me? Whatever else. And then look at that part of it. Because the symptoms itself only resides in lower vibration. As you're going into the higher vibration, some of the stuff that's been locked in, blocked, or whatever you want to call it, in the lower vibration through different parts of our bodies or head or whatever it is. Because a lot of times the headaches is the shift in, the chemistry in your body, the pressure in your body. It can create inflammation and so forth, which are, again, are at times older patterns within ourselves from the collective that we're kind of bringing in and purging through us at this point in time. So the key to remember, you don't have to have these symptoms, but at the same time be open to them as they show up, accept them, acknowledge them, and go through the process of seeing what they have to provide. What are they sharing? What we can do. Have no judgment about it. Don't fight it. Don't, say, okay, I hate these things, or whatever it is. Love it, express love to it, breathe into it. I've had to do that before we got on. In the sense of, and allow it to be present and just breathe it through. Yeah, sometimes it's annoying because you want to function and, do an episode or do something, whatever that is, whatever work you're going to do or engage with, fun or otherwise, at this point in time, so it can get there. But so spend the time to kind of allow those symptoms to move through you, but acknowledge them, observe them, and see what they have to offer, and then move them through with love, appreciation for its presence, and love, and then you can let it go. If you have a level 10 sensorial experience, and then there's 0, to go from 10 to 0 is very possible, but at the same time, the chances are It's going to go in stages along the way, depending on where you're at with that. So be patient with it, but I don't mean patient in the human perspective, patience, oh, I gotta wait this out. No, no. Be patient and say, okay, allow it to move, but stay conscious of whatever's coming up so that you can work with it rather than resist it, fight it, or whatever it is. You know, so just let that that move through at this point. Anything else? This will be the last one.
Oh, you want to do one more question?
Well, it depends on how complicated it is.
5:57, 3 minutes, honey.
Okay.
What are the odds that?
The answer is yes. Okay, next.
Okay, I'm just going in order so that I know where I'm at. So let me just get to that one. Okay, this is from Spirits Dancing. In the recent Todd interview, Franco mentioned that the inverted matrix was digital and the organic matrix is analog. Can Franco expand on this?
Did I say that?
Apparently.
Yes, I did. Okay, so what digital does, it actually takes something that's analog, something that is natural through sound, so it's a certain vibration, a sound or whatever it is, okay? And what it does, digital, you can actually deconstruct it. And so basically what you're doing is you take, let's use this as an example. There's digital music and there's analog music. Analog would be music that's created by instruments, okay? What we were doing at once upon a time, we were using the sound from the instrument and we were recording it analogically. Probably not the word, but anyways, I'm going to use that. Through analog. Analogically. Was recording it in its natural state. Okay, so it was recording sound through magnetic field. That's why it was being recorded on tape and it was being recorded on different vibrational fibers and so forth. That created what you call analog sound. So you have the instrument and the recording device. Then digital came along, where digital, what it does is it takes the sound, breaks it down to zeros and ones. It breaks it all up into digit codes, so it turns it into code. It's no longer a wave, it's code, and then it's transmitted as code. A lot of times the code is either compressed, as a lot of people talk about compressed sound. So you can take wave, for example, sound, and then compress it to MP3, for example. So what you're doing is you're compressing and removing certain parts of it, and then you reconstruct it again at the other location. It's never going to be the same from the natural sound, because natural sound itself and digital sound is very different on the message and the vibration it carries, because the reconstruct is not the same. So the inverted matrix was made in digital. So what it did is it took the natural organic, or what we call analog matrix, and it took the organic matrix and deconstructed it and modified. That's why digital pictures, you can change it. Photoshop's very good at it. Through sound studios, you can change it through program software, whatever it is. You can change digital a lot easier than analog. Analog, you can kind of take out certain parts of it, but digital, you can reconstruct it so you can change its format. So that's what happened, is they took the analog matrix, which was our natural organic matrix, and digitized a version of that, digitized. So you still have the organic music, but you created a digitized version of it, and then you modified the digital version of the matrix. So you reversed everything. So it was no longer it's a natural state, it was an inverted. This is why the inverted matrix, I call it the inverted matrix. A lot of people don't even call it that, and a lot of people still call it the matrix, thinking that we're in the matrix and then we're not in the matrix. No, we're either in the organic or analog matrix, or we are in the inverted, or was in the inverted digitized version of the matrix. So what they did is they took the analog and they modified it so that everything worked backwards. And this is why all of our systems in our world works backwards. What is right is wrong, what's good is bad and bad is good, whatever it is, all of that stuff. And that's how you can create polarity. Again, through analog, the sound is holistic. It's like neutral. It has vibrations, it has frequency, but it's 0 point. Analog is closer to 0 point. It takes that 0 point and uses certain bandwidth to create stuff with it, where the digital actually chops it all up and you only takes fragments of it. So there's a difference to that. So our world was created through digital inverted matrix, where it broke it down. Once you break it down, you can reshape the reconstruct, and this is why it was easier to reconstruct. The ego itself is digital. It's not analog. Analog is our mind's operating system, but the software, which we call the ego, is digital. And digital, again, can be modified. That's why it can change very quickly to either assist you or push you, push you or pull you or do whatever, because it creates various versions of it within its operating system. So that's what I meant about the digital. The digital is the deconstructing of its natural sound. Now, of course, natural sound instrumentations and so forth have changed too, from using 432 hertz frequency that is of full body involvement. Because if you listen to 432 analog music, even in digital, you'll notice a difference anyways. But if you're listening to analog music, that's why when you go to an orchestra, being present there is a whole different experience than listening through a stereo system, especially if it's digitized experience. A lot of the older technologies at the time when they were using vacuum tubes and so forth, they kept the music analog. Okay, did not digitize it. Most of the newer stuff, pretty well all of the newer stuff, has used digital. There is technology that will keep it in analog, but it's not utilized because we're still playing in that digitized world. So the music were tuned to work at 440, which basically localizes the frequency only in our head. So at 440, and especially when you become digitized, you can add more information. This is the thing. In analog, it's a full spectrum and it's what the instrument is making. In digital, you can plug in other frequencies in there. You can other information, extra zeros and ones that are designed to carry a different message that is slightly different and sometimes more than what the instrument will provide. But that extra in there is actually to create a manipulation of some sort so that we would have some different type of experience. So that's the difference between the analog and the digital. So our world became digital in a big way right from 10,000 years ago, but some of these technologies have been utilized along the way to create more digital aspect of it, so that in digital form you can do more to it when it comes to modification, manipulation, but it steps away from its original design. So it doesn't carry the full spectrum of it. It carries bits and pieces of those spectrums, and then you have the essence to plug it in. This is why programs like Photoshop can be utilized to reconstruct a photo, to change its color, to change its shape. It's not about, like if you take an analog system and you're changing the picture, you can't change it. You can focus on certain spectrums of light so that you can change the coloration. Now you may have 12 bands of color coming in. So what you're going to do is you're going to lower some of the bands and then accentuate some other band, and then you can say, well, okay, now the face looks a little bit more orangey or red or whatever it is, or I'm just giving you it as an example. That's analog focus change. So you're just changing the focus of what colors are more to the forefront. Where digital, you're actually deconstructing it so that you can actually change the shape, you can change the color, the intensities, you can do a lot of different things, but at the same time, the more you do to it, less it's from its natural state. That's the difference. Hopefully that explains it. without getting into more details, I don't want to blow some circuits here. But so what's happening now, just to throw this in as a wrap up, is that we're going back more and more to an analog operating system, because what's happening is we're connecting more and more to our organic analog matrix. And then we start to experience planet Earth more analogically, and then we experience our physicality more analogically. I'm making up words here, and Kimberly's having a blast.
I know, I'm writing them all down, honey.
Okay. So, yeah. So that's that in the digital. We'll have to leave the other question because we've already passed the 2 hour mark. So one more time, I want to remind everybody not to miss out on our beautiful workshop. Now, I know some people say, well, what do you call it a workshop? Why don't you call it a webinar? Well, it kind of is, but the workshop is, it's not just teaching, it's an involvement. Yeah. Okay? So because we're working together. I like to use the word play, but a lot of people don't always understand that. It's a play shop, it's a workshop. What we're doing is we're doing work together for ourselves. So we have September the 20th, which is this coming Sunday. We have maneuvering with neutrality and alignment during the next wave of unfoldments. It's a one-day workshop, September the 20th, from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Okay? So you have two options. You can join live, which is preferably, but for some people around the world, you know, I know we have a lot of hardcore people too that actually doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the night. They sleep in the daytime or make time for it so that they can be participating live, because live has an extra oomph to it. But if you can't join us or the time schedule doesn't work out for you, then you have the option to get the audio and video recordings as a package that you will get to listen to and do the work, because we're going to walk you through it. We're going to walk together through it. So even if you're watching it later, you do the process and everything else, even the meditations and everything else that are provided and all the different processes that will assist you regardless that you're watching it. Now, of course, like live is live. Now, if you do join in live, you also get the video and audio recording. So you're getting both. You get to join us live, and it's a very low price for both, you know. So you're looking at live with the auto, automatically getting the video, and it's Canadian too. It's $97, and the other one is $67 just for the recordings alone, Canadian. Which if it's an American, you almost knock 30% off that, or 25% depending on the exchange rate. So it's even less expensive. We make it as cost effective as possible, even though when people say, well, you should be charging much more, as much as that is appealing because it would help us financially at this point in time, we'd like to make sure that everybody has access to it as much as possible so that it's not impeding anybody or putting a strain on, especially with all the things that are happening right now. So you end up joining live, experiencing some powerful transformation, and then you're left with some tools, powerful tools that you use every day as it comes along to basically continue to navigate in a much more powerful way. So I wanted to say that. Thank you, everybody, for all your contributions and so forth. I know very few has been coming through lately, but at the same time, we thank you for that. We're open to receive. That supports us to put more content together. We're working on several different projects right now that are coming to its completion, so we'll announce that as soon as they're available. Each time we think we're about to launch it, some other delay comes along. So it's been interesting, but it's getting more refined because of it. So that's the beauty of it. So we've been able to do some pretty amazing things with it. So we get to play some more along the way. Is there anything else, Kimberly, that you wanted to share?
I don't think so, honey. I think you've done good today.
Okay. So if you want to know how to register, it's in the body of the description of either on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you are, watching it on Twitter, or you're watching it on LinkedIn and so forth. It's all available there. It's also in the comments section, I think, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, which Kimberly's been.
I
I'm
just
sure
posted it in chat.
she posted in chat, so that's available there. So just click, join us if you can. This is for you. You know, it's your opportunity to really experience some powerful changes that you're already doing, but just to accentuate a little further. If you're on YouTube and you have not subscribed, please subscribe and click the notification bell so that way you get the notification of every new live stream that comes on and videos that are put into place. If you're on Facebook, like, comment, do whatever you like to do at this point in time. It kind of makes us more visible. So, great. Till next time, go out and play. Hopefully to see you on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 20th of September, to play with us at the workshop.